Edge Congress from the Bahamian American Cultural Society, and we're trying to assist the university transition team. By mandate, I guess that they are responsible for strategizing and developing the process of the College of the Bahamas towards university status. And they are visiting New York, and we welcome here. And my role, I think, is just to introduce the team to those who are here. And I think that Dr. Saunders, I'm turning it over to the University Transition Team from the College of the Bahamas.
Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate that you decided to take the time out to be with us. The University Transition Secretariat is charged with envisioning the university and designing the roadmap to get to the university. I'm Olivia Saunders, and in the typical Bahamian way, we want to know Saunders from where. Well, my husband is the Saunders, and his family is from Harbor Island. My mother hails from Long Island. She's a Carol from Long Island. My father's father is from Inagua, UJ Mortimer. And my grandmother, my father's mother, was Winifred Mortimer from Miss Thompson, Savannah Sound, Eleuthera. She was a Gibson from Savannah Sound. And I'm the person who's been charged to lead this transition secretariat. We have a team of 6 persons in total, and they, Joan Vanderpool, Antoinette Seymour, and Quincy Parker is here along with me. Ruby Nottage is our legal advisor, and Sandra Dean Smith is our administrator. Davinia Bain is along with us. She's from the advancement office at the college, and Tracy Thompson is the director of the newly formed Oral and Public History Institute, and you'll be hearing something from them. But I think it's important to explain the methodology that we're employing. The reason we're here is because we feel that it's so important, one, for us to make connections with the Bahamian diaspora in the broadest sense, first, second, third generation removed from the Bahamas, because we feel the success of the university, the sustainability of the university, is directly related to the extent to which we bring the Bahamian community throughout the world into the process and into the university once it is in existence. And we are here to make this initial connection in that regard, and to ask you to participate with us in this process of envisioning and designing the roadmap to the university, to assist us in making appropriate connections so that we can be properly resourced, either in terms of assistance, whether in terms of financial resources, in terms of possible partnerships, possible collaboratory initiatives, to have a university that is truly a national university. And we are very proud of the work we've done at the College of the Bahamas today. We've just been to John Jay College speaking to Micah Mia Cartwright. And in our discussions with her, she said after the College of the Bahamas, her education in the U.S. was a piece of cake. And we know that to be true because when Antoinette and I went down to Inagua, we met with a gentleman, a chemistry PhD holder, who said that he did his 2 years at the College of the Bahamas, and that third year he did not even take the plastic off of his textbooks because of the quality of the education that he received at the College of the Bahamas. And we intend to maintain that quality standard, that high standard. And so that's an introduction at this point in terms of why we're here. But I'll allow the rest of the team to introduce themselves, and then we'll go into exactly the process that we're employing.
I will start. I'm Quincy Parker. I'm the Community Relations Attaché on the University Transition Secretariat team. And every day I work with really brilliant people to envision together what the National University will be like. And my task consists of finding ways to draw the work of the Secretariat out from within our little walls out into the community, and how to bring the wider Bahamian community and international community into what it is that we're doing, so that our national university is truly a national university with appropriate international partnerships and an international scope, but properly reflective of the character of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. That's me, and I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Good evening. We're happy that you're having us here. I'm Antoinette Seymour, and we call the University Transition Secretariat UTS, so I'll just say I'm the UTS archivist. My responsibility is all about preserving the past and the present for future use. All things valuable for future use. My responsibility will be that at the end of the day, the UTS will have a collection of all its works, whether it's in paper form or any other medium, for lodging in the library and eventually the university archives. And that's what we're aiming to do as well, to establish the university archives. And I want to toss in, Olivia gave a background, Cat Islander through and through, both parents, 4 grandparents, great-grandparents, everybody. Thank you.
For the record.
Good evening, my name is Davinia Blair. I am the Director of Development at College of Bahamas. I cannot say I'm part of the UTS team. I'm probably an adjunct partner right now. But now let's get the islands sorted out. I think I have the most islands. My dad's family is from Andros and Cat Island. My mother's family, they're from Long Island and a bit of Exuma. My husband's family is from Berry Island, so I think I got about 5 or 6 there. So hopefully I win. My particular role in these trips and in participating in bringing the university to fruition is actually the most fun, I think. We are looking to develop relationships that will help us resource the university, as Olivia said earlier, whether they are partnerships, research grants, philanthropy from persons just interested in giving to the college, persons interested in giving time and expertise. It is my job to do as much as possible to reach out to individuals like yourselves to see what sort of partnerships could be created, so that at the end of the day we have everything we need to fulfill the vision that's put before us. So that's my particular work. Thank you for having me here today.
Hi, I'm Joan Vanderpool, and I'm delighted to be in New York again after not having been here for a while. I have found very fond memories of New York, and then when I think of people like Gerald Roberts, who passed away recently, who was in the New York area, as many of you might know, who was an icon for young Bahamians back in my day to come, and who would help us out as long as he knew that we were pursuing education. I had the opportunity to have been schooled in various, because there was no College of the Bahamas back when I had to go to university, and I'm a graduate of Fisk University, University of Miami, Harvard University, and also, in Canada, the University of Toronto. So those influences, it's great for a person like me to be able to incorporate that all into the work that I'm doing with the University Transition Secretariat. And my area of focus there is higher education development and policy development as well. And it's been so wonderful to be here at a time when the college, looking at how far the college has come to this part of their development history, to become a university is really for 2015 in just a few short years, and building on what we have gotten, not only from the hard work of the faculty and staff at the College of the Bahamas, but the warm wishes and the encouragement of people like yourselves, Bahamians and the friends of the Bahamas in various places in the world. New York, of course, probably being one of the areas with the highest volume of well-wishing people that I could think of. Now, the University Transition Secretariat is not only envisioning the university through the eyes of Bahamians everywhere, but we're also examining and reviewing best practices of universities throughout the world. And so, for that reason, we're not only visiting the Bahamas, but Caribbean, places. For example, a team has gone to Johannesburg, South Africa, recently. Well, South African universities recently, to look at what they have accomplished through their very crisis-oriented times of apartheid, and how far they have come. We also will be visiting other countries as well. We have one of the things that really motivates me in my work is that our mandate indicates that this process of transition be led by faculty. And we have a very strong cadre of young Bahamians and old Bahamian faculty at the College of the Bahamas who are participating actively in this process. We have about 7 working groups now, which are comprising faculty and also other stakeholders in the Bahamas who are looking at specific areas such as research, which, as you know, is something that really is the backbone of university development. We also have a working group looking at the academic programming and how we can incorporate centers of excellence and institutes in the growth and development of the university to come. We have a working group that's looking at character and core values of a university. That's being led by Annette Seymour. The academic planning group is being led by Lydia Saunders. I lead the research working group. We've also incorporated a group that looks at operations and the needs of staff and what's going on there. The students are not left out, and they themselves have been developing fora so that they can participate in the work that we're doing. So these working groups, along with these visits and incorporating your ideas, are going on simultaneously with all the things that we're doing so far.
Legislation.
The legislation group, thank you. Many would know retired Justice Ruby Nottage. She's our lead legal person, and exciting thing that's happening there, which is dear to my heart, of course, as the higher education specialist, is that we recognize that we want to look not just at the University of Bahamas, but a University of the Bahamas, but the Bahamas higher education system that will lift all boats, all the various higher education entities. And so we're busy. We're very busy.
My name is Tracy Thompson, and my background, so that I can fit along with everybody else, is Exuma, Long Island, New Providence, and specifically the top of the hill of Blue Hill Road. I'm not, strictly speaking, part of the University Transition Secretariat team, but I'm very much a part of the process that they are engaged in, because the government of the Bahamas has said that as a matter of national priority, the university needs to incorporate an entity that allows us to sit with older persons in our country and Bahamians who have moved abroad and capture before they pass on the recollections that they have of their experiences, their stories, so that we can map for our children the impact that Bahamians have had within the Bahamas and abroad. And we can show them the value of being Bahamian. That the entity that is going to carry out this mandate within the context of the National University is called From That Time, FDT, Oral and Public History Institute, as Olivia said. It has certain needs. I'll just point to one at the moment, and that is to identify some of those Bahamians like yourselves who have chosen to reside beyond the geographical boundaries of the Bahamas, but retain commitment to and a willingness to participate in the growth of the country, who care to see our children be empowered by understanding our history. I would like to connect up with such persons so that we can carry out as comprehensive as possible an oral history project on the impact of Bahamians abroad.
Yes, so what we'll do is just explain in more detail what Joan had started to say. Our process is one of collaboration. So we started off our work, and when this secretariat was formed, it was formed to be more or less a steering committee, as opposed to a committee of 30 or so persons who had all the answers. We are engaging with the Bahamian communities. We've gone to Matthewtown in Agua, we've gone to Mars Bay Andrews, we've gone to Sweetings Key in the Abacos, we've gone to Exuma, Cat Island, North Andros, all of Eleuthera, all of the major islands, for the purpose of inviting Bahamians in the envisioning of this university. How can this university participate with them, and how can they participate in the university in developing and advancing their communities and the country generally? And we have had tremendous response to this invitation to participate with us. We feel it extremely important that this national university truly reflects the aspirations of Bahamians. And so, for example, if you go on the website, there is a question about what is the name of this national university to be. And that, a part of that is a part of the invitation. There's a survey there. What's the character, what are the values should be incorporated into this university? We have a few hundred persons who have come forward to work in the working groups that Joan has talked about. We are embracing all and sundry, from the janitress to the president is invited to participate in this process of providing ideas about what this university should be. Let me just speak a little about the legislation working group that Ruby is working on, so that you can really get a scope of what we're attempting to do. We can go forward and have a University of the Bahamas, say, but this University of Bahamas sits in a context, and we think it's not appropriate to have a University of Bahamas without a Higher Education Act in the country. So one of the things that the Legislative Working Group is doing is proposing legislation for higher education in the country. We have a situation where a multitude of universities come in to conduct research in the Bahamas, and we don't really see the benefit of it. We are not participating in the research. So a part of this working group is also looking at research that's being conducted in the country, a national framework for the conduct of research in the country. We are beginning a self-assessment, an organizational effectiveness self-assessment that's taking place now. As Joan said, the whole idea of academic planning. What is the governance structure for the academic programming, undergraduate programming, the structure for graduate programming, where we're looking at what is the framework required to have a proper research component to this university. We're also wanting to know, for example, how do other institutions collaborate with, become a part of, and or partner with the university in a higher education framework for the country. Additionally, Antoinette, Jessica Minnis, who's former chairperson of the School of Social Sciences, and I traveled to South Africa, and we visited 7 universities, different universities, to see what their best practices are. And why we chose South Africa, because they're going through transformation. And for us, this university, if we do it right, should have transformative impact on the Bahamas. And that's our goal. Not to just change a name, to have a piece of legislation that says we have a university, but we want this university to have meaning, to really transform, to be a leader in the country for a new kind of Bahamas. We will be traveling as well to Scotland and Finland and possibly other countries to look at their best practices. We're on this trip specifically to make connections with the Bahamian community. And we know there are many Bahamians who are here who would like to participate along with us. And that's our invitation to you, to participate along with us and lend us your ideas and your talents as we move forward. So if there are any specific questions, you wouldn't mind answering.
I have a question. Michelle Sweeting, born here in the United States. My father and his father and his father's father from Deep Creek, Congo Town, South Andrews. Mother from the Bahamas. My mother, Harlem, New York, I must not neglect her. Her father from Turks and Caicos. I can most certainly appreciate what Ms. Vanderpool had mentioned, which is having had the opportunity to study in Zimbabwe, Botswana, England, and Eugene Depute Law School. Benefited from having studied various states in the United States as well, various universities there. So I most certainly have a strong appreciation for higher education and university status. My question, however, becomes, in this climate, especially with the transition from college to university, I'm thinking also costs. There are a number of universities now, also a number of colleges, that are confronted with the issue of retention, retaining the students that they have, partly because of the cost that's associated with it, student loans, student loan debt, the increase in internet education. There's now a question as to whether or not students even need a college degree, and what's the value of a college degree as opposed to getting hands-on trade schools. So in this climate, And I know that the university status will be attained. I'm absolutely confident, especially after having heard from the transition team, and I know the support that will be the winds that will propel this coming about. But it still becomes a question, is there another leg of this, another component that will be able to pitch, so to speak, to the student to say there is some value today in attaining a university degree?
Well, I think that, that's an excellent observation. It's a question, surprisingly, even at home, we get a question that may be slightly different. Why do you really need a university? And, well, I believe the country needs a university. My background is in economics, and I feel that one of the great limitations of our development as any former colonial territory is one of education. When we were in South Africa, for example, the was it Western Cape, University of Western Cape, a comment was made that you know the difference between a colonized country and the colonizer. It's the emphasis on science and research. And in terms of advancement, I don't think you could expect the country to develop much further than where it is if you're relying on simply preparing persons for trade. Yes, there's no question there's a need for trade schools, vocational training. But the research component that comes, for example, with graduate studies, with inquiry, with developing new knowledge, with the implementation of innovations that come about, and that's something that was extremely exciting for us, is the application of science to an information that is taking place in South Africa. So when we went to University of Stellenbosch, the bastion of apartheid in education, for us to be told you need a university because they recognize the importance of having a university in their community, and the advancement of their people was because they had university with research, etc. So it's a question, first of all, for the decision makers to decide there's a need for a university. And I believe that once we get the message out about what a university is, we're not going to have too much of an issue convincing the people, because you all know Bahamians are prideful people, we're ambitious people, and we smart. And that's the reason why many of us have left, because the lack of opportunities, because something was not offered at home, so we went abroad. Yes, some of us also went abroad for the experiences, but we are also hoping that a part of the university that arises is that we are going to be able to have more international cooperations, more international exchanges, things like semester abroad, year abroad, partnerships with other universities, so that our students will have experiences abroad, and students from abroad will have more experiences at the university as well. And one of the things that one of the handouts that you'll have, you'll see that one of our focus is dormitories, and that's one of our greatest limitations, dormitories. Because even persons who live in New Providence would like to live in the dormitories. Family Island students have a serious issue in the dormitories. We are developing the Northern Bahamas campus, and a part of the Northern Bahamas campus will be a component for dormitories. And this Northern Bahamas campus is in Freeport. We already have a site there now, and the idea is that that would be a center for maritime studies, and the need for dorms will be important there. But I don't think you'll get an argument from anyone that if we are serious about advancing the country, we need a national university.
But I'll make it even plainer.
I
Connection
heard
between
you.
jobs and university status.
And
is
if
what
I
it
may,
is.
that's actually a very good connection to make. I have the pleasure of actually being a part of those initial meetings with substantial donors in the country who wish to forward the work of the College of the Bahamas. And it's so interesting, I was in a roundtable discussion with Jeff Houston, who is the new head of BTC in the Bahamas. And he was able to pinpoint, off the top of his head, 10 highly skilled jobs that he would love to replace with Bahamians. But because we simply did not have Bahamians that had those qualifications in very technical engineering areas, that he didn't have a choice but to employ whom he had to fulfill those functions. Since then, BTC, and we haven't signed on the dotted line yet, but BTC has come forward committing a substantial amount of money towards scholarships in that area. So this goes towards, one, the jobs that attract the students that say, you know what, I'm willing to pay the price to have that type of lifestyle and to contribute to society in that manner. But then some of you may have known it as Batelco back in the day, but the new name is the Bahamas Telecommunications Corporation. And they've recently been bought by a private, well, the majority of shares have been bought by a private firm that works throughout the Caribbean. So this company, now owning one of our largest corporations in the Bahamas, has decided that they want to invest in Bahamians to the point where they don't want all of the senior management and the major technical positions at BTC to be taken by foreigners. They want to invest in Bahamians so that we can have those positions. So as a young person coming out of high school now, I can say, yes, I want to be an engineer. What do I do with it? And you speak with someone like Jeff Houston, you say, okay, these are 10 jobs that you can apply for. You will be making possibly 6-figure salary, which is exciting for many Bahamians, as Olivia mentioned. And in doing so, we are willing to invest in your education at the University of the Bahamas. So the cost is a factor. I don't think anybody believes that we will be 10 years away from today and the cost of an education at the College of the Bahamas still be the same. However, with new partners, it could be just as affordable, even though the price may be different. And even more valuable.
And then I'd just like to address the part of your question that talks about the internet and IT and information technology. One of the fascinating challenges of this transition process is that we're running a College of the Bahamas at the same time. We're not stopping things to become university. And over the years, the development of our college presently has been built on the use of the judicious use of information technology. And we also have not only we incorporated that in terms of the running and the operations of the college, but we've also we have a history now for several years of online teaching within our current programs. So you have courses online, and then you also have courses where you use online teaching in conjunction with your classroom teaching, which is common practice in most universities today. Also, information technology, of course, is the hope, real hope of our future in being an archipelagic nation, so that we can reach those communities where we might not necessarily be able to conduct full classroom classes. So all that is going on now at the same time as us trying to moving towards university. It's very tempting to think that internet higher education could take over. It does seem overwhelming that so much is happening, but for the same reasons that Olivia and everyone else has addressed, it's so important for us to have our own. And we have positioned ourselves to be able to take advantage of this technology and own it, so that it's a part of our developmental process. And of course, research, as Quincy had mentioned, brings in anywhere from 20 to 35% in some cases of the higher education revenue in many universities. we certainly have some distance to go, but we have a small track record to build on. And of course, what comes first, the cart or a horse? We do need to be able to develop our research capacity to take advantage of those grants and those kinds of things that our advancement office is positioning us to take advantage of. But we need to build our capacity at the same time, and I think that's a part of what we're doing, why we need these stakeholders in our developmental process, people who are in the community.
We have some other questions?
I have a comment. I think you're really, on track, because I did an internet, I did a class online at Seton Hall University, and I can tell you, and they're finding it now in many of the universities, even right here, the weaker students, you don't retain them. They need FaceTime with the instructor or the professor. So that's one thing you have to look at. But I think science, math, economics, all of those things as a developing country that we did not have. Even in this country, in New York City today, we don't have people to fill the jobs because they don't have the skill sets that's needed. So many people cannot really work because they don't have it. Not just going to college to get a BA and whatever, but just focus. And in your development office, if you would attract donors who want to, let's say, support the School of Education, but there are people who will do that on an annual basis, or to support the School of Technology. I think small donors, whatever patrons or whoever, I think you can build from that if you, invite donors, people living here, abroad, whatever, to give to something like that. I think that would be very worthwhile. Or to educate a student, or if you're from Eleuthera, would you like to help educate the student? To try to get some of the cost down. We know the cost of education is great, but we know the benefits is greater.
And forgive me for this. This is a follow-up question. You think it's really, it could really be that specific? If you're from Eleuthera, do you want to educate students from Eleuthera?
I mean, you have to have, I'll tell you, there is a bond that people have. To just say, give to the College of the Bahamas. I may say, give to the College of Bahamas. Me. Okay? But if you say, help a child who's struggling from Eleuthera or from Long Island, of course that's a bond, and I would do that because I have family members who are struggling.
Because in 1967, the Bahamas had hotels. They had employees brought in from Malta, from all over, no Bahamians, no Bahamian managers. And you heard of a place called the Culinary Institute?
Yes, sir.
Or PHTC?
Yes, sir.
How did that get started?
I don't know, sir.
It got started because we did a research. We went out to find out how many people were working, what jobs were available, and what was needed to train, and that was started PHTC. We started that project. We got the trade unions, the hotel training unions, and we got the owners to chip in. So that's how BHTC got it. And of course the government did this thing, but we got that started. And that same Culinary Institute has had scholars from the Caribbean, has brought them in from Africa, South Africa. It was done because we wanted to help, Nelson Mandela. He said we have to get these people ready for whenever they take over, and that's what the COB has contributed to date. I mean, so you have to stop thinking about cost. You have to start looking at the benefits.
And again, that bond is very important. Yes, I went to the Bahamas. I had a good time, but this is somebody who's a part of me, it helps.
It's good, interesting that you mentioned that. I'm sorry, we'll move to the other questions, but I really want you to take a peek at some of our collaterals, because you'll find we have specific scholarships, just as you mentioned, and we're always looking for new donors who would like to do that, to develop specific islands. We have Cat Island scholarships, we have San Salvador scholarships, scholarships specifically for Grand Bahama, and so it's something that if it resonates with you, we craft that scholarship to do exactly what it is that you want?
Well, one of my roots of has just walked into the room. It's Mr. Ralph Vanderpool and his wife Olga. And of course, Ralph has been in New York for how long it is, Ralph? Many years. And of course, our father is of course from Inagua, Matthew Town.
Anyway, universities in the islands, Long Island, Cat Island, and Lutheran. Okay, so I have relatives all over the Bahamas. And there's a little, I wanted to ask you, did any of you remember a place called Borco? What is Borco?
Bahamas Oil Refinery Corporation.
Are there any Bahamians working there?
Now, yes, and some.
How did they get there?
Through you.
Same principle started Culinary Institute.
Right.
Okay. And
just wanted to make one point. This is the question of funding. That is a fundamental thing for all of us. But my own background in terms of university and stuff is European. And the reason I mention that is to say that all the European universities that I've attended are basically funded by industry. On every campus there's an industrial complex that's a part of the university because it's a symbiotic relationship. In other words, sharing. In other words, you do the intellectual part and I'll fund it to my profit. It's not some altruistic thing. It's very, very real. Now, what does that mean in terms of the Bahamas? There's a tendency, and I'm like 100% Bahamian, there's a tendency in the Bahamas and many places in the Caribbean to think small things. They think tourism, servicing the foreign banking community, little fishing, little farming, subsistence. But the reality is that the Bahamas, and I'm part of a group of which Mr. Powell over there will be familiar, I'm a part of a group that is concerned with the industrialization of the Bahamas. Now, we're not talking about building cars and all that, but the reality is that we think globally. Craig and I came back from a meeting earlier today at the Malaysian embassy where we were talking about the role of small developing countries at the world level. What does that mean in practical terms? The Bahamas has some advantages that we don't even think about as Bahamians. We think of little subsistence lobster, for example. The world fishing industry at the moment is $13.8 trillion, of which the Bahamas gets about $80 million per annum. But we have the potential to making millions and millions and millions from fishing. But you have to do it at the level of the university now. Not some little guy with a little dingy boat out there. No. At the university levels. At this place here, at the University of Miami, at the University of Cambridge in England, which I'm very familiar, the fact is that all those places fund the research for food. Food. We can do that in the Bahamas, and people will pay us to do it because we can do it 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So that's just a little thing I just wanted. We have in the Bahamas, it doesn't matter what people say, in College of the Bahamas, I will hope, and the university will spearhead that. That is, we have oil and natural gas and all those things in the Bahamas. We have those. And don't let anybody tell you about the ecology and that we are going to destroy it. No. You're talking about protecting the other people's industries. The fact is that Cuba has oil which they're exploiting, Florida has oil which they're exploiting, Trinidad and Tobago have oil, and yet they have tourist industries. So the point I'm making is that the College of the Bahamas, the University of the Bahamas, has to spearhead this whole movement. One of your presidents said that the difference between the university and the college is that the college transmits received information or knowledge. The university creates it. And Alfred says, I notice on the back of that handout says basically the same thing. The fact is that in the Bahamas, we at the University of the Bahamas can be the the forerunners of the creation of knowledge and make a profit to fund the university that you were talking about.
I'm sure you can imagine that my ears really perked up when you started speaking. And as you get deeper into some of the material that we've provided, one of the specific institutes that's one of the top 5 priorities of this university transition is actually a food institute, food science institute, sorry. And the whole idea, we would love to find companies, countries even, that are interested in investing in this institute specifically for research, and if they end up profiting from it and we also profit from it, then it's a mutually beneficial relationship. But at the end of the day, like you said, we would have created knowledge. We would have contributed not just to the creation of knowledge, but the solution of worldwide problems.
Absolutely.
Okay, and food security and all those types of issues. So if you happen to know of some conversations that we can have post this meeting, I would love to chat with you so we can pursue that, because that's one of our top 5 priorities specifically given from the government of the Bahamas. So.
And my question was actually really it probably was said as I arrived late. I wanted to understand what your vision is in terms of social justice programs, in terms of human rights programs. I work in human rights. I've been working in human rights for the last 15 years. I'm the Gender and Women's Rights Advisor for the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. I've been discussing with several colleagues internationally about the institutes that they have. There are not very many human rights institutes in the Global South. There are a number in the West. Of course, as we know of them, I actually studied in the UK where they have quite a few, and all across the European continent, and a number here in the US as well. And I spoke recently to one of the experts from Israel who was saying to me, we'd be very keen to do something with the Bahamas. I also spoke with the Human Rights Center in Pretoria, South Africa, and the director of that program, who was one of my lecturers at Oxford, is very keen. Again, he's hearing about the Bahamas, what you're doing toward becoming a university. We'd love to do something with the Bahamas, with the West Indies and so forth. And so just wanted to understand whether you had any vision in your plan. I know you indicated that you have 5 priorities. I don't know to what extent human rights, social justice issues is among that 5, and whether you would, how we might be able to consider fitting in some of these. I have quite a number of ideas I'd love to share with you perhaps at another time, but working on these issues for the past 15 years, there's a lot of interest in doing more in Global South on this.
The way we're operating is just what you just did, to spur our consciousness to something that we may not have thought of before. We have had ideas about a policy institute, but no one has come forward to suggest or recommend an institute or a center or anything, a center of excellence that would focus specifically on human rights, justice, and social justice. And so I think the way forward now is for us to have a conversation about the possibilities and what that might look like, such an institute might look like. I'm aware that there was some initiatives started a few years ago in that regard, and they stalled. But I really would love to hear more about that and moving that forward. And as you know too, at this time in the country, and that's a part of my other life, I'm a commissioner on the Constitutional Reform Commission. We are going through a constitutional reform in the country, and that's one of the conversations that come up more than once, is the whole idea of human rights and justice, and what our new constitution should look like. So
I was at an obesity task force meeting last week, Thursday, and one of the members of the task force gave a report about a grant that she had received, and she was now working with second graders who were going from seed to the end product, but they couldn't eat it because the grant just wanted the children to experience 6, 7-year-olds to experience planting a seed and then having the plant grow. But the produce, you couldn't eat it. So I said, well, why isn't it edible? And she didn't know why, but she had gotten this money. And the point I'm making is, lots of people have lots of money, and if you're a billionaire, I may think giving me $100,000 grant, well, you're wonderful, but if somebody could be just keeping track of A to Z, not to say that grants, money, and all of that is not important, and we want it, but sometimes you have to connect the dots, and I'm just saying
that's very important.
Character and core values. That's why we're building that character and core values and looking at that very carefully, because we can't build our university without those core values of integrity, excellence,
And it also goes to the development and advancement people as well. They have to have their stuff together in terms of due diligence and
we have very I want to use the word strict policies when it comes to prospecting and doing the due diligence on donors. Yes, we want the money, but at the same time, we're not going to give away our reputation for it. If you're not adding value to the institution, your money is valueless to us. And so we've actually, we've had donors, and you may not hear about it because it doesn't get to that point, but we've been selective, and the persons that you see that are in these documents, partnering with the College of the Bahamas are companies, individuals, organizations who have the Bahamas and the College of the Bahamas in high esteem, and we want to be connected to. So that's actually a very important part of this development process.
I'm Sharon Brennan Haylock. I work with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. I was really happy to hear everything that was being said about food security and agriculture. I am here by of Snug Corner, Acklands also, and Berry Islands. But just a couple of points I want to make really quickly because I don't want to take up too much time, but I do commend the approach that the college is taking. I think this is such an intelligent thing to do, to go around and get views from the diaspora and from other persons. I mean, I can't tell you how impressed I am by that and how much I believe this dialogue, feeling extremely motivated and stimulated to assist as much as possible. I was happy to hear about the due diligence on the funding because you have a lot of agencies, a lot of organizations with lots of money, and they're looking to clean up their image because they then say, we give to in the developing world. And they would love to partner with the UN because, it gives them an opportunity to say we are now clean. It's really good to hear that because it could be really tempting to go after the money. So that was one thing. The other thing that I wanted to say was we had the Bahamians working at the UN. There's something like 15 or maybe 20? Maybe 50 or so of us. I'll get the names to you. We had talked at one point about pooling our resources and creating a scholarship fund for persons. I think we need to resume that discussion, having heard, what you said earlier. And I promise that I'll kickstart that again.
Just fighting on what the area will be.
Yeah. And then on the Food Institute, honestly, as we listen to the discussion, I think the real challenge is going to be to zero in on where the niche is. What is it that the college can do best? Because there is so much work that's going on in the region even, whether it's, in the larger Latin American and Caribbean region, or whether it's through CARICOM and UWI. There is so much that's going on. I think we will have to focus on what it is that we can do best that is perhaps not happening elsewhere. This is not to say that the college should not do what is happening elsewhere, but we really need to make a conscious decision to do that. But you don't want to spread your energy all over the place. And this I would be, really happy to help with the research to find out what is going on already and to, share that information with you. And then a final point I wanted to make, and this was about connecting the dots. The Caribbean region was the one who sponsored at the United Nations the resolution on non-communicable diseases. And, we know what causes non-communicable diseases. A lot of it has to do with poor diet. So we sponsor this obesity, hypertension, cardiovascular problems. All of these are non-communicable diseases, diabetes. And so we sponsored this resolution, but have we connected the dots, as you said, to make sure that we have within the curriculum in schools or even in the vending machines the correct types of food that will help to prevent non-communicable diseases. And so, the question that came to my mind, is this the kind of challenge that the Food Institute would take on? Because, you can look at food from the point of research, you can look at the economics of food, you can look at, training farmers, training the farming sector, training the fishery sector. There are just so many ways you can look at it. It's the real thing is going to be what would be the focus. And happy to help.
We've had a wonderful conversation, and we're really almost speechless I am for the enthusiasm and the warm reception and the fact that you've come out to share with us and to participate with us in this process, and we have your contacts, and we expect, and you have our cards and our information, Beryl.
Yes.
You would have our contact information, so
she will.
If there's any way you'd like to provide us with any further ideas, recommend any connections, further connections, we really would appreciate it. Our work in terms of designing the roadmap will be done by the end of July, and the process then of the actual transition will take place. But we know that even when the act is passed, the building of the university continues forever, because the country will last forever, and we must be there as the university to cause the Bahamas to really manifest and realize its greatness in the world. So thank you again.